Am I the jerk for choosing my carer over my pregnant sister? I was born and raised in this cozy little town where everybody knows everybody, living with my mom, dad, and my little sister, who we'll call Amelia for this story. Life in our household was always pretty structured, especially for me. You see, my parents had this vision of the perfect future for me. They were the kind of parents who believed in the power of a good education and extracurriculars. They pushed me hard, wanting me to shine in my studies and take part in all sorts of clubs and activities. Their ultimate dream? For me to get accepted into one of those big, fancy universities and eventually find a high-flying job that would make them proud. Amelia, on the other hand, was the family's free bird. She danced to the beat of her own drum, embracing life with a carefree spirit that I always admired, even if I couldn't quite understand it. She was passionate about art, so much so that she decided college wasn't her path. Instead, she chose to chase her dream of becoming an artist, moving back home to save up some money. Despite the love I had for her, Amelia and I were never that close. We just saw the world differently. But despite our differences, I always thought my relationship with my parents was solid and strong. That solid ground I thought I was standing on shook when Amelia's life took an unexpected turn. She got pregnant, and suddenly our family dynamic changed. My parents, usually so focused on achievement and success, were overjoyed with the news of becoming grandparents. They started planning for the baby's arrival with so much enthusiasm. But then, they came to me with a request that felt more like a command, one that would turn my world upside down. They wanted me to put my college education on hold and come back home to help Amelia with her baby. At first, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I thought they were joking, pulling some kind of prank on me, but the serious looks on their faces told me they were dead serious. They explained that Amelia needed someone she could rely on during and after her pregnancy, and according to them, that someone was me. They also mentioned that money was tight, and they couldn't afford to hire help or pay for daycare, so it seemed I was the logical choice. I was dumbfounded. The idea of sacrificing everything I had worked so hard for, all because of a situation I had no part in creating, was just too much. I had dedicated myself to my studies, dreaming of graduating with top honors and making a real future for myself. And now, they expected me to just throw all that away? I couldn't accept it. So I stood up for myself and said no. But my refusal only sparked a massive argument. My parents couldn't hide their disappointment and anger. They called me selfish, accusing me of not caring about my own family's needs. I tried to reason with them, to make them see that abandoning my future wasn't a choice I could make lightly. But no matter how much I tried to explain, they just wouldn't listen. So here I am, finding myself in a situation I never thought I'd be in, being asked to leave my own home just because I stood up for my future, refusing to give up my dreams for my sister Amelia's situation. It just doesn't seem right. And honestly, it feels like I'm being unfairly punished for something that isn't even my mistake. As I walked through my old bedroom, I was on the lookout for any small things I might have overlooked in the chaos of packing. I had made the trip back to my childhood home to gather all my belongings. My best friend Luna was there with me, lending a hand with the packing. We didn't talk much as we worked, each of us wrapped up in our thoughts. I could feel this heavy mix of sadness and disappointment pressing down on me, making each step feel a little heavier. Eventually, after what felt like hours, we managed to get all my things packed up. Walking out of the house felt surreal. Leaving felt strange, almost like I was leaving a part of myself behind in that house, in those rooms where I'd grown up. Luna, trying to cheer me up a bit, started chatting about her new job. She was really excited about it, and even though part of me wanted to just dwell on my own problems, I forced myself to listen. I tried to focus on the good stuff happening in life, not just the bad. We got to the car and loaded up all my boxes and bags. The drive back to my college dorm was pretty quiet. Luna could tell I was still processing the whole ordeal, so she didn't push me to talk. When we finally got to my dorm building, we took the elevator up to my floor. I unlocked the door to my dorm room and stepped inside, feeling this unexpected sense of relief wash over me. Sure, this room was a lot smaller than my bedroom back home, but it was mine. It was a space where I could start fresh. Luna stuck around to help me get settled in, unpacking the boxes and finding places for everything I'd brought with me from home. As we organized my stuff, I started to feel a bit more grounded, like maybe I could handle this after all. Luna's presence and help reminded me that even though things were tough right now, I wasn't going through it all alone. Luna was really sweet about letting me take my time to set up my room just the way I like it. Decorating has always been something I enjoy, and even in this small dorm room, I wanted to make it feel like a piece of home. After we finished organizing and decorating, we both sat down on my bed, taking a moment to look around at what we'd accomplished. The room looked pretty cozy now. a small comfort in the midst of everything else going on. Breaking the quiet that had settled between us, Luna spoke up. I can't believe they did this to you. Her voice was soft, filled with disbelief and empathy. I felt a lump form in my throat as I nodded in agreement. I can't either, I managed to say, the hurt clear in my voice. It's like they don't even see me as part of the family anymore. Luna, ever the optimist, tried to offer some consolation. They'll come around eventually, she said, her tone hopeful. I wanted to believe her. I really did. I hope so, I replied, but deep down I felt this heavy sense of doubt. The whole situation just felt so unfair. I just can't wrap my head around how they could pick my sister over me, I confessed, the words spilling out in a mix of confusion and sadness. Without hesitating, Luna reached out and gave me a tight hug. The warmth of her embrace was a small beacon of comfort. You don't have to do what you don't want to, she reminded me, her voice firm yet gentle. Your life is yours, not theirs. Hearing those words from Luna, I felt a spark of determination light up within me. She was absolutely right. This was my life, and it was up to me to make the choices that would shape it. I couldn't let my parents' demands dictate my path. It was time for a new beginning, a chance to build a life that reflected who I was and what I wanted to achieve. I was ready to take on this challenge, to create a future that I could look back on with pride. Luna's support was a reminder that, even in the toughest times, I wasn't alone. With friends like her by my side, I felt a little stronger, a little more capable of facing whatever came next. Update 1. It's been a whole month since I started getting used to a whole new way of living, one where I don't see my parents every day. At first, adjusting to this big change was hard, but I was managing okay. The problem was, my parents wouldn't stop calling or texting me, trying to make me feel bad about my decision. They kept saying things like, "Your sister's going to have a baby and she really needs you. How can you just leave her?" And, "It's really selfish to not come home and help. She's counting on you." Every message from them was like a little jab, making me second-guess myself. But deep down, I knew I'd made the right choice. I couldn't just give up on everything I've been working towards, my future, my education, my career dreams, just because of a situation I didn't cause. It wasn't fair to me, and honestly, it wasn't fair to my sister either. I tried so many times to get my parents to see things from my point of view, but it was like talking to a wall. They were stuck in their ways, not willing to listen to reason. The situation got even more intense when, out of nowhere, they showed up at my dorm. They came all the way there, begging me to reconsider and come back home. It was a really tough moment, but I knew I couldn't just cave in. I had to stand strong, even if it meant standing up to my own parents. As tough as it was, staying true to my decision started to feel a bit easier as time went on. I dove into my studies, making new friends at college who were a great support system. I also managed to find another part-time job, which really helped me feel more independent. Being able to look after myself, to make my own decisions without relying on my parents for everything, felt really empowering. Of course, that doesn't mean I didn't miss my family. It was really hard to come to terms with the fact that they were ready to just push me aside because I wouldn't do exactly what they wanted. The thought that they could cut me off over this hurt a lot, but I kept reminding myself that I was doing what was right for me. I was living my life on my own terms, making choices that I believed in, and I held on to the hope that, with time, my family would start to see things my way too. I just needed to be patient and keep believing in myself and the choices I made. A couple of weeks after the unexpected visit from my parents, my phone rang, and it was my sister on the other end. When I picked up, I could hear her crying, and it instantly made me feel guilty. Despite everything that had gone down, the love and care I had for her hadn't faded away. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't just ignore all that had happened and act as if things could go back to normal. I found myself saying, "I'm really sorry, sis, but I can't come back home and act like everything's fine. What Mom and Dad asked of me, it's just not something I can do. I can't put my own future and dreams on hold to take care of you." There was this heavy silence on the line after I said that, and for a moment, I wasn't sure what she was going to say next. When she finally spoke, her voice was trembling, and I could tell she was trying to hold back more tears. "I get what you're saying, but it's just really hard right now. I feel so alone and I'm honestly scared. I don't think I can handle this by myself." Hearing her say that made my heart hurt for her. I wished so badly that I could be there to give her a hug and tell her everything was going to be okay. But I also knew that I couldn't let my parents' guilt trip sway me into making a decision that wasn't right for me. "I understand this is tough, but you've got to remember you're not on your own," I told her, trying to sound as comforting as I could. Mom and Dad are there for you, and they care about you so much. They'll support you through this, I promise. And hey, if you ever need to talk or if you're feeling down, you can always reach out to me. I'm still your big sister, and that's never going to change. I love you a lot. There was a quiet moment, and then I heard her sniffle before she replied, "Thank you. I love you too, and I'm really sorry for everything. For all the tension between us lately." I sighed, feeling this mix of emotions swirling inside me. "I'm sorry too, sis. I really hope that one day you'll understand why I had to make this choice." After we hung up, I just sat there in my dorm room, lost in thought. I felt sad, guilty, and a bit unsure about everything. The future seemed so uncertain, but deep down, I knew that moving forward and sticking to my decision was the only way. No matter how difficult things got, I had to focus on my own path and my dreams. Update 2. It had been a whole 9 months, almost like a lifetime since I last heard from my parents or my sister. I had been really focused on my schoolwork and on trying to make a new start for myself, something that was just mine. But then, out of nowhere, I got a call from my parents. They told me my sister had her baby and they were calling me for help. They started with their guilt tripping again, saying things like, "You're the only one who can help us with the baby, and we can't handle this by ourselves." Hearing that made me so mad. I didn't even realize just how much anger I was holding on to until that moment. I let it all out on the phone. "How can you even have the nerve to call me after everything?" I shouted into the phone. "You kicked me out of the house because I didn't want to give up my entire future for her mistake. And now you think I should just jump in and care for her baby?" My parents tried to jump in, probably to try and explain themselves, but I was way too angry to listen to anything they had to say. I was furious. I told them straight up how selfish they were, always putting my sister before me, ignoring what I wanted or needed. I made it clear to them that they had no right to ask me for anything after the way they treated me. "I hope you're happy being grandparents because this is the last time you'll be hearing from me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady before I hung up. My hands were shaking, and I couldn't stop the tears. I threw my phone onto my bed, overwhelmed by the audacity they had to think they could still control my life after everything they put me through. Update 3. It had been a whole 2 months since that really intense phone call with my parents. Then, unexpectedly, I got a call from my sister. She was crying so much when she first started talking, it was pretty hard to figure out what she was saying. But as she kept going, her message became clear. She really wanted me to come over and meet her new baby. At the beginning, I wasn't sure what to do. The idea of going back to my family's house, after everything that had happened, made me feel really conflicted. Despite this, my sister didn't give up. She called me again and again, pouring her heart out about how she felt lost and really needed me there, how she was having a super tough time managing on her own, and how much she missed me. After a lot of back and forth, I couldn't ignore her pleas anymore, and I agreed to visit. I made it super clear, though, that I was doing this just for her. I wasn't coming back because of our parents, or for any other reason. It was all about supporting her. When I got to my parents' house, my sister was right there waiting for me. She looked pretty rough, like she hadn't had a good night's sleep in weeks, but at the same time, there was this spark of happiness in her eyes that I hadn't seen in forever. She led me straight to where the baby was sleeping, in a little crib in the nursery. The moment I saw him, sleeping so peacefully, this flood of emotions hit me. I wasn't ready for it. This tiny, delicate little person seemed to hold so much possibility and hope for the future. It felt huge, almost too much to wrap my head around. After that, my sister and I spent a long time just talking, trying to fill in the gaps of everything that had happened since we last saw each other. She shared with me all about the birth of her baby, explaining how incredibly hard it had been for her, and talked about all the challenges she'd been facing since then. She was still in the middle of healing, both in her body and her heart, from everything she'd been through. As I spent time with my sister, it became crystal clear that she really needed someone by her side. Looking into her tired eyes, I could feel the depth of her exhaustion mixed with a kind of relief at having me there. It was a strange feeling seeing the changes in her. She was clearly worn out, dealing with so much stress and the massive responsibility of a new baby, but there was also this spark of happiness in her eyes, a kind of joy at us being together again. The whole visit was filled with mixed emotions. On one hand, it was kind of sad to see just how much my sister had been through since the last time we were together. On the other hand, there was this warmth, this feeling of family that I realized I had really missed. Despite the rocky past few months, the love I had for my family hadn't faded away. I found myself wanting to rebuild those bridges, to be a part of their lives again, in some way. However, I also reminded myself of the important lessons I had learned about independence and living my own life. I love my family, yes, but I also know that I have my own path to follow. I couldn't let their needs completely take over my life. So, when the visit came to an end and my sister gave me a big emotional hug, thanking me for making the effort to come, I felt this bittersweet tug in my heart. I promised her I'd come back to visit again soon, but I also gently let her know that moving back wasn't an option for me. My life, with all its dreams and ambitions, was something I had to pursue on my terms. The drive back to my dorm was a roller coaster of thoughts and feelings. Seeing my sister and my new niece had filled me with happiness, but it also left me feeling sad about the whole situation with my family. I found myself wondering if there was a way for things to ever be like they used to be, if forgiveness was possible, especially towards my parents for putting me in such a tough spot. As I navigated the road back to college, I realized only time would provide the answers to these questions. Life was complicated, but it was also filled with possibilities for healing and moving forward. Update 4. After that whole big mess with my family, things started to look up for me in ways I didn't expect. I was killing it in school and even snagged this awesome internship that was pretty much a golden ticket for my future career. But, even with all these good things happening, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was missing. Yeah, I was still feeling kind of sour about how things went down with my folks and Amelia. Out of the blue, one chilly night, my phone rings. And guess who? My dad. Hearing his voice after so long was weird. He sounded tired, but kind of hopeful, like he really wanted to make things right. He said, "We miss you," and hit me with, "We were wrong." That was a lot to take in. I mean, I was mad, but hearing that, it kind of made me stop and think. Dad shared how tough things had been back home. Amelia was finding being a mom way harder than she thought, and it kind of slapped some sense into my parents. They realized they messed up big time with how they treated me, expecting me to drop my life for Amelia. They started to get that supporting us meant letting us chase our own dreams, even if those dreams weren't what they had in mind for us. So we started talking again, real slow at first. A few calls here and there turned into video chats, and eventually I figured maybe it was time to go back and visit. It was super awkward at the beginning, lots of tiptoeing around each other, but seeing my nephew running around laughing and playing, it kind of melted the ice. Amelia and I got to catch up properly for the first time in ages, and it felt good, real good. Then, my folks did something I never saw coming. They offered to help me out with cash for grad school, saying they finally got that my education and career goals were just as legit as Amelia wanting to be an artist. It was a big step for us, and I said yes, but I made it clear things had to change. We had to respect each other's choices more. Getting back into my studies while also being the cool aunt on the side was pretty awesome. I started visiting more, and each time, it felt more like I was coming back to a family that really got me. We had our moments, sure, but we were all trying, really trying to listen and understand each other better. When I finally graduated with my master's, having my family there cheering me on felt unreal. It was like all the drama and hard feelings were in the past, and we were all looking forward to what's next. It's been a crazy ride, but getting through all that mess made us stronger as a family. It taught me you can stand up for yourself without cutting ties forever, and that sometimes people can change for the better. Now, I'm pumped for what's ahead. I've got big plans, and I know my family's got my back. This whole thing showed me how important it is to keep talking, to keep trying to understand each other, and to not be afraid of going after what you want, as long as you remember where you came from and who's rooting for you. Life's a wild ride, but it's all about finding that balance, Thanks for watching.